5,000 people, 9 months, zero contact with land. Right now, somewhere in the middle of the ocean, no zip code, no street address, no dry ground for hundreds of miles in every direction. 5,000 Americans are waking up, eating breakfast, going to work, working out, watching movies, calling their families, falling asleep, and doing it all over again. Not in a city, not on a base, on a ship, a single ship. A ship so large, so complex, so completely self-contained that it generates its own electricity, produces its own drinking water, runs its own hospital, its own post office, its own TV channel, its own legal system, and its own air force, all while moving through open ocean at 35 miles per hour, launching nuclear-capable strike aircraft every 90 seconds off a flight deck the size of 3 football fields. The price tag to build one of these things, $13 billion.
Sized area
that is not a typo. $13 billion for a single ship, a ship that the United States Navy has to feed, fuel, maintain, and crew, not for a weekend exercise, not for a 2-week deployment, but for a continuous 9-month operational deployment cycle that asks 5,000 human beings to essentially disappear from their normal lives and become residents of the most expensive, most powerful, most logistically extraordinary floating structure ever constructed by human hands. And here's the thing that most people, including most Americans who proudly support the Navy, have absolutely no concept of. The cost of building the carrier is only the beginning of the story. What happens inside that ship during those 9 months at sea? The food, the sleep, the danger, the psychology, the relentless machinery of daily life aboard a nuclear-powered supercarrier operating in some of the world's most contested waters. It is a world so completely different from anything most people have experienced that even veterans who served on carriers struggle to explain it to people who haven't. So today, that is exactly what we are going to do. We are going inside, past the flight deck, past the aircraft and the catapults and the arresting cables, down into the maze of passageways and berthing compartments and machinery spaces and dining facilities and medical bays that make up the hidden city beneath the flight deck. We are going to show you what it actually costs, not in dollars, but in human terms, to keep 5,000 Americans alive, functional, combat-ready, and mentally intact for 9 straight months on a $13 billion ship that never stops moving and never ever stops demanding everything from the people inside it, because the carrier is extraordinary. But the people who live inside it, they are something else entirely. Before we talk about the people, you need to understand the machine, because until you actually grasp the physical scale of what a Nimitz or Ford-class supercarrier actually is, the human story inside it does not make complete sense. Start with the numbers. A nuclear supercarrier is 1,092 feet long, roughly the length of the Empire State Building laid on its side. She stands 20 stories tall from keel to the top of her island superstructure. She displaces 100,000 tons of water when fully loaded. Her flight deck covers 4.5 acres, and that flight deck is one of the most dangerous working environments on the planet, where jet blast, spinning propellers, arresting cables under thousands of pounds of tension, and 70,000-pound aircraft moving at walking speed in every direction combine to create a workplace where one moment of inattention can end a life in a fraction of a second. Over 25 sailors have died on carrier flight decks in the last 2 decades. Every single person who works up there knows that number, beneath that flight deck. And this is where the city analogy stops being a metaphor and starts being literally accurate. Are 2,570 compartments, 2,570 individual rooms, spaces, corridors, machinery bays, storage areas, offices, and living quarters connected by hundreds of miles of passageways that new crew members spend weeks learning to navigate without getting completely lost. There are 4 aircraft elevators, each large enough to lift 2 fully loaded fighter jets simultaneously, connecting the flight deck to the 2 hangar bays below where aircraft are maintained, repaired, and armed between sorties. There are over 30 miles of pipe carrying seawater, fresh water, aviation fuel, hydraulic fluid, and weapons-grade compressed air through the ship's interior. There are enough electrical cables running through the hull that if you laid them end to end, they would stretch from New York to Los Angeles and back twice. The power plant is where the engineering story becomes genuinely mind-bending. 2 nuclear reactors sit in the heart of the ship, each producing enough power to run a city of 100,000 people. They require no refueling for the entire operational life of the ship, 25 years of continuous operation on a single nuclear fuel load. No diesel, no gas, no supply ships bringing fuel alongside every few weeks. The reactors just run, quietly, reliably, invisibly, producing the electricity and steam power that drives 4 massive propeller shafts, each shaft thick enough that a grown adult cannot wrap their arms around it, pushing 100,000 tons of steel through the ocean at speeds that would surprise anyone who assumes something this large must move slowly. She is also entirely self-sufficient in ways that go far beyond propulsion. The carrier's reverse osmosis plants produce 400,000 gallons of fresh drinking water every single day from raw seawater. Her supply department manages inventory of over 25,000 different line items, everything from jet engine parts to bandages to coffee to printer cartridges to spare arresting cable wire. Her medical department operates a fully equipped hospital operating rooms, dental clinic, pharmacy, psychiatric services, physical therapy, capable of handling everything from routine illness to battlefield trauma surgery. Her communication systems connect every crew member to satellite phone and internet access that was barely available to carrier sailors a decade ago, providing the digital lifeline to families back home that plays a larger role in crew morale than almost any other single factor. This is not a warship that carries people. It is a city that happens to carry warships. And the distinction matters enormously when you start thinking about what it actually takes to live inside it for 9 months straight. Here is what the recruiting posters do not show you. The average berthing compartment on a Nimitz-class carrier, where enlisted sailors sleep, store their personal belongings, and spend what little off-duty time they have, is approximately the size of a generous walk-in closet. In that space, 9 to 12 sailors live in triple-stacked racks bunks so narrow that rolling over in your sleep requires a conscious, deliberate physical maneuver. Each sailor's personal space is a rack, a small curtain for privacy, and a storage bin roughly the size of a carry-on suitcase in which everything they own for 9 months must fit. No windows, no natural light. Temperature controlled, which sounds like a luxury until you understand that the machinery spaces directly adjacent to berthing areas can push ambient temperatures high enough that sleep is genuinely difficult without the air conditioning that breaks down with maddening frequency on aging ships. The work schedule is relentless in a way that civilian employment law would never permit. During flight operations, which happen every day and often extend through the night, the carrier runs on an 18-hour day cycle rather than the standard 24 hours, meaning that over every 3 standard days, crew members cycle through 3 complete work-eat-sleep cycles that are permanently out of sync with any normal biological rhythm. Sleep deprivation on an operational carrier is not an occasional inconvenience. It is a chronic managed institutional condition that every experienced sailor learns to work around, and that every medical officer on the ship monitors carefully because the consequences of fatigue-driven errors in an environment filled with nuclear reactors, jet fuel, live ordnance, and 70,000-pound aircraft are catastrophically unforgiving. The food operation alone would break most civilian catering companies. The carrier's culinary team serves approximately 18,000 meals every single day across multiple dining facilities operating on staggered schedules to accommodate the rotating shift rotations of the crew. That is 18,000 individual meals, breakfast, lunch, dinner, and midnight rations for night watch sections prepared fresh 7 days a week, 270 days straight without a day off, by a team of culinary specialists who are simultaneously some of the hardest working and least celebrated people on the entire ship. The food quality on modern carriers is genuinely better than the institutional nightmare that earlier generations of sailors endured, but 9 months of cafeteria-style eating in the same dining facility with the same rotating menu takes a psychological toll that every long deployment veteran will describe with a very specific tired expression that needs no further explanation. Then there is the noise. The carrier never goes quiet. Never. The reactors hum. The ventilation systems roar. The catapults fire with a concussive mechanical violence that shakes the entire forward section of the ship. arresting cables snapping taut as aircraft land produce a sound like a cannon shot directly above berthing areas located just below the flight deck. Damage control drills mandatory, frequent, intense fill passageways with alarm klaxons at hours that make sleep feel like a negotiation rather than a biological right. Sailors on operational carriers develop a specific relationship with noise, learning to sleep through sounds that would wake any civilian bolt upright, while simultaneously training themselves to instantly recognize the specific tones and patterns that mean something is actually wrong and requires immediate action. And this